All right, welcome everybody. Welcome AP Calc. Let's do this. For this lesson, we will find certain derivatives, but we're going to use a graph. So what will be the idea of this question? Let's read it together. It's saying, given the graphs of y equals f of x, so this is the graph of f right here, and y equals g of x, this graph of g is right here, shown below, and h of x is equal to f of g of x. Determine the value of h of negative 3. So let's see. What is the question asking? Right? In your own words, if you had to pause the video, what is the question asking? Right? It's asking, what is h prime of negative 3? So what do we need to do? We need to take this h function, right? And how is h defined? H defined is right here, just like this. We need to find, first we need to find h prime of x, and then what value are we going to substitute in? We're going to substitute negative 3. So if I said, hey, pause the video, how do you find the derivative of h of x if it's defined as f of g of x? What would you do? How would you find the derivative of this? Right. The idea for this, we need chain rule. Okay? So then what would the chain rule look like? How would you set it up? Notice that this f is on the outside, right? And our g is on the inside. So this is g of x on the inside, right? So then how does the setup go? We take the derivative of the outside, so it's f prime, and notice that the inside in the blue stays the same. But then we also need to take the derivative of the inside, so it's going to be times g prime of x, right? So it's f prime g of x times g prime of x. This is the chain rule, okay? We should be comfortable with this by now. Now here, the idea is this is h prime of x. Now what is the question asking? We need to find h prime of negative 3, right? So then here, we're going to plug in, anywhere we see x, we're going to plug in negative 3. So in here, we have f prime of g of negative 3 times g prime of negative 3. Okay, great. So far, so good, right? Not too bad. Now, the question is, before, when we had the previous lesson, if I said, hey, what was g of negative 3, we looked at a table, right? Notice you don't have a table right now. Here, we have the graph. So the first question is, what is g of negative 3, right? And the question I have for you over here is, what does it mean to find g of negative 3 visually? So pause the video and think about it. If this is the g graph, right, we're going to take a look at g. What does it mean to find g of negative 3? Right? Pause the video and think about it. Right? Here, when x equals negative 3, y equals what? Right? And we're looking at the g graph, right? So here, when x is negative 3, what is that y value? It looks like it's positive 1. Congratulations. So g of negative 3 is just equal to 1. So then when I go back over here, when I want to find what h prime of negative 3 is, I need to plug in on positive 1 over here. So then I have f prime of positive 1 times, but now what do we need to do? We need to find g prime of negative 3. So let's take a look at this over here. And if you want, please copy these questions into your notes or onto the paper, right? What does it mean to find g prime of negative 3? In your own words. Pause the video and think about it. What does it mean? Okay, you are finding the derivative at x equals negative 3 for the g graph. Okay, so you're finding the derivative at x equals negative 3. That's what this notation means, right? So if I'm at negative 3, we know the y value is 1, but another question is, really, what does it mean to find the derivative at x equals, I should write x equals -3 within the g graph, right? If you can explain this in your own words or write a sentence and show it to me, and it looks very good, I will give you $1, right? Oh wait, no, the money sign goes on the other side, right? So I will give you $1 if you can pause the video and in your own words, tell me what it means to find the derivative at x equals -3. Visually, what does that mean? Right? So let's say you pause the video and you want to see. We are finding the slope at x equals -3 for g, within the g graph. The idea is, if I say what is g of -3, you're finding the y value. If I say what's g prime of -3, you're finding the slope at -3 within this line. Okay? Now, the question should be, how do I find the slope at x equals -3 within this graph? Like, x is -3 over here. How do I find what the slope will be at -3? If you want to pause the video and think about it, right? But the idea is, if you take a look at, notice that from this point to this point over here, the slope of this whole entire line is the same. Like, any point between here and here have the same slope. The same idea that from here to here, they have the same slope. From here to here, they have the same slope. From here to here, they have the same slope. And here to here, they have the same slope, right? But the idea is, if I find the slope at any point from here to here, it will represent what the slope is at -3. So then how do you find the slope of a line? How do you find the slope, right? M is equal to y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. The idea is, pick 2 points anywhere on this line. It doesn't matter what the 2 points are. You pick any 2 points on this line and you find the slope, then it will represent what g prime of -3 is. So now, which 2 points look nice and juicy, right? Like, which 2 points look very, very nice to look at? It's always the end points. Like, if I take a look at this point and this point, these 2 points are on this line. So let's use these as our points. This could be our x sub 1, y sub 1, and this could be our x sub 2, y sub 2, right? And now here, what is this point over here? Be patient and take your time, right? So this point over here is, let's see, my first point, second point, right? Because we need 2 points to find the slope. Our first point is, what is it? -6, -1, right? -6, -1. And what's our second point? It is, what is it? 0 and 3, right? 0 and 3. Okay, if I give you these 2 points that are on this line, find the slope of the line, right? What would you do? Take your time. Pause the video and find the slope using the slope formula, and these are our points, right? This is my x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2, and we substitute the values. So this is going to be 3 minus a -1 over 0 minus a -6. So this just becomes 3 plus 1 over 0 plus 6, which is 4 over 6. And then take your time. Can you simplify this? You can simplify this as 2 over 3. Ah, okay. So then this is just 2 over 3. But what does this 2 over 3 represent? Pause the video and think about it. What does this 2 over 3 represent? It represents the slope of this line. But it also represents what the slope will be at -3, which is finding out what g prime of negative 3 is. G prime of negative 3 is going to be 2 over 3 because this represents the slope at negative 3. All right. So now we did this part where we found g of negative 3, which was the y value. We found it was the y value at negative 3. We found the slope at negative 3, which defines a derivative at negative 3 for g. Now what's the final part we need to do? We need to do f prime of 1. Okay, pause the video. What does it mean to find f prime of 1? Well, let's see. Let's go to the f graph. Now we need to, let me do this, put this here. Right, what is f prime of 1? So well, let's see. This is the f graph, right? This is the graph of f. We're going to look at 1, and now notice this is the point when x is 1, the y value is negative 3, right? So if I said, hey, what is f of 1? What is f of 1? It's negative 3. But that's not what the question is asking. We want to know what f prime of 1 is. So then what do you need to do? Right? Pause the video and think about it. What do I need to do? I need to find the slope at x equals 1. So I need to find the slope of this line. So then now here, I have to, again, find the slope of this line. So then I pick my 2 points, right? This is my first point here. And what is this point? This is 0, negative 2. And what's my other point over here? It is 4, negative 6. And the idea is you find the slope of this, and that will represent f prime of 1. And then whatever that is, you multiply it by 2 over 3, and we're done. So pause the video, try and find the slope, see what it is, right? Let's see, what would be the slope of this? So let's see, if I had y sub 2, let me use a different color, my bad. This one looks good. Y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1, right? This is my x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. So then this should be negative 6 minus a minus 2 over 4 minus 0. So then that should just be negative 6 plus 2 over 4, which is negative 6 plus 2 is negative 4 over 4. So that just equals a negative 1. But what does this negative 1 represent? It represents the slope of this line, but it also represents the slope at x equals 1 for the f graph. And that's what f prime of 1 is. The f prime of 1 is negative 1. So it's just negative 1 times 2 over 3. And what is negative 1 times 2 over 3? It's just negative 2 over 3. And that's it. We're done. We found h prime of negative 3. Notice for this question, what was it asking you to do? You had to take the derivative of this function, and notice which derivative rule did we use? We used the chain rule. Let's turn the page. If you take a look at question 2, notice same idea, but what derivative rule do you need to use for this one, for question 2? For question 3, which derivative rule do you need to use for this one? And question 4, is there a question 4? Oh no question 4. This is just homework. Okay, try and do, when you're done, just talk to me, send me a message or whatever. How did you feel with the video? And then try and do the next one. Try and do this question on your own. And then we'll go over it together in class. Hope you enjoy. See you.